Did I miss it? I hope not. Let's see what it says. I probably missed it and just went straight live. Everybody was probably waiting for that one. It's like sometimes when you let me just check the YouTube now. All right, here we go. It's going to say I'm live, but is it? Let's see. Live. Oh, yeah, it's live. Good. That's very good. All right, we're started up. Kettle Moraine Kombucha Farm. Woohoo! I got my Four Roses single barrel tonight. All right, good to see you there, Kettle Moraine. We are talking NDPs tonight. All right, so we're live on. That's good. Let's take this down here. I'll put that there. I'll check the YouTube tonight a little bit more because we actually have a bunch of stuff to cover. I'll cover that once we get this started. Let's get back to we're live. Let's get back to Facebook. All right. All right. Ed Blay. Again, an NDP. Let's see. I gotta pull that one out too. One of the better bottles. It's like a lot of stuff going down. NDPs, non-distilling producers, and let's put that right there. Oh, I bumped the camera. Wow, that's good. Everybody saw that. Let's go back to this. Here we go. How about that? That's looking pretty. Oh, what are we looking at? We gotta go like that. All right. Slide that in a little bit. All right. All right. Live everywhere. Everything's looking good. I'm back to there. Back into the parts. Okay. All right. So let me get this going. So the way that this works tonight, everybody, hey, Ed's on. Have you tried the black? No, I have not. The Irish whiskey. If so, it's a bottle to pick up. I have been seeing that in Ohio. To Mark to come up with what you're talking about. Ohio this week and the Scotchy Bourbon Boys will be a part. We have Ann Dimmick coming on Thursday to talk about this Irish whiskey single barrel bash that Ohio is about to throw. We are going up to Cleveland for an event at the Giant Eagle, introducing the single barrels, and then Fred Minnick's going to be up there in I think it's not Streetsboro but Strongsville, and then I'm going to meet Matt Leisen up there too. But we are going to be podcasting from Burns Irish Pub, 9:30 a.m. at 9:30 a.m. at Burns Irish Pub on Sunday morning, and we are going to be talking to Pat Burns and Martin Kennedy. They launched the Irish whiskey brand Bua here in Ohio. It's made in Ireland, but it's a Bua, and it's a Ohio. The people who are doing this are in Ohio, and so we're gonna basically they did a barrel pick, and we are going to be launching that on Sunday. But then 12 o'clock, we are heading over to the OHLQ launch right down the road. And Fred Minnick's going to be there too. So we're going to be a part of both the events on Saturday. Watch for that. And then as far as Ed goes, he says he loves the conversation. Why does it matter? If it does matter, why do you need to ask where it was distilled? Shouldn't you be able to tell? If everything you do changes whiskey, why does the producer of the whiskey matter? Does anyone drink White Dog? So many questions. Yes. And so what you've been seeing, let's just get this going as far as the actual podcast. We have a new sponsor, Rosewood Bourbon, and it is Jason Giles. He's been on the podcast before. We are going to be getting a bunch of media up and talking about that because Jason is doing some really cool things. And he's an NDP himself, which is quite quite amazing. We could talk about that. But, everybody has, like Ed says, it was saying here, everybody, let's see. Yeah, Ann Dimmick is here. Yeah. Everybody has a twist for that I find that's very unique. They can take it, they can finish it into different barrels. Especially, that's what Macaulay's doing through Dark Arts. Someone very, very fantastic finishing barrels. With his palate, he's able to pick out how long they're in there. And then Ed, who just came out with Old Stubborn, which is a weeded bourbon, and now he has a non-disclosure, but but like he said, if you know what you're doing, you kind of can figure it out because even watching videos or whatever, people who know can help you figure out where it's coming. But I'm not going to be talking about that because honestly, it does come down to if the person is upfront honest about what they're doing and you trust what the company does and that you feel that they're following all the rules and their labels are correct and everything, that it really doesn't matter exactly where it comes from. But uh, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is some some or a lot of the NDPs are coming from MGP. So there's a lot of MGP stuff, juice or white dog whiskey, aged whiskey floating around everywhere. And it's something that's been happening in the industry. Now, okay, so we talked about Rosewood, and then now also what's going to happen, there's going to be a 30-second pause right now. Let's see. Crop growth. The journey begins with selection and cultivation of grains like barley, corn, rye. Wow. That is. If you're not watching on Facebook, you need to go on Facebook. Macaulay just put out a book. It's everything on what he's done. That is very, very like he is an open book. So you should check that out on Facebook. I don't have wow. There is a lot of stuff: blending, finishing, maturation, distillation. There is so much that goes into that. So, anyways, the Spirit of French Lick is our other sponsor, along with Alan Bishop. Alan Bishop is on his way to Stoll and Wolf in Pennsylvania for a project. So, shout out to Mr. Bishop. I hope that everything's going good and you made it there safe today. And then also, he has, if you have Ghosts, you have everything, and the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. Check those out. And then also, our sponsor of is the Spirit of French Lick. They have their Maddie Gladden, their Lee W. Sinclair, their William Dalton, and then also a bunch of other stuff: Hindustan Falls, Lost River. There's so much that they have. All right, so got their start with MGP whiskey. Yes, old Seagram's plant with years of history. And I mean, it has years of history. There's no doubt about it, Greg. But I'm going to do the half 30-second spot. You're going to hear you're going to hear start the countdown. You're not going to hear it, but our sponsor will be doing, and then you'll hear our theme song. Drinking 30, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew we move, man, it's
Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, we're here to have fun, we're here to have fun. Yeah.
Woo! Yeah! Welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Tiny here tonight, on my own again here, and tonight we are talking about NDPs and also distillers who sourced whiskey and bourbon to start their brand. So we're going to go a little bit into that, but in the meantime, I'm Tiny. Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We podcast twice a week, live here on Facebook, YouTube, and check us out 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, most Tuesdays and Thursdays. If I'm not going to be podcasting or going live, I'll let everybody know. But for the most part, that we're here. We've had a little bit of a discussion tonight. I want to get to this as fast as I can, so I'll go through all the other stuff first, but we've the Facebook on this has been pretty has been pretty intense. We have had Ross Cornelis in, we've had Macaulay Mitten chime in, we've had Greg Schneider chime in. So tonight this is going to be a pretty fun podcast. I've got right now the Macaulay's Dark Arts, the French oak staves from the specific forest in France, but I'm not going to try and say it again. I already messed that up enough. And then we also have Ed Bly. He's here, and he definitely is an NDP. He just put out Old Stubborn, a fantastic wheated bourbon, and everybody does it a little bit different. So we'll get into that. But remember, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all things Scotchy Bourbon Boys, Glencairns, t-shirts. Check it out. All the bios on all of us, all our podcasts. Tonight I'm on my own, but a lot of times we've got Supernatch, we've got CT, Whiskey, Roxy, myself. We are going to be going down to New Orleans Bourbon Festival, so you can see us there. The 20th through the 24th. We're going to fly in on Wednesday, fly out on Sunday, but we will be down there covering it. Just was talking to Tracy today about getting the media passes, but we are going to cover this. We are going to do all the stuff that's down there and experience New Orleans. I'm looking forward to that. That's March 20th through the 24th. We've got also, we are on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X. Check us out on there. Like I said, we're live on YouTube and Facebook tonight. Welcome, everybody. And then also check us out on all the podcasts. If you can listen to it, ask Alexa, ask Google, ask Siri, to play the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Apple Podcasts, it'll play on Spotify, it plays on iHeart. It doesn't, if you got a podcast, app, it's gonna, we're there. So check us out, but leave us really, 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 really good feedback, please. I've been asking for people to leave feedback. So anybody's watching, if you listen on Apple or iHeart or everything, just go back and give us some feedback. But it's even going right now. We've got so we've got a lot to talk about tonight, but also I'd like to welcome Rosewood Bourbon to the podcast as far as one of our sponsors. Jason Giles, a great guy, working out the details right now. We should have voice. I'm going to offer up voiceovers. He's got stuff. You're going to see stuff updating the website and everything. But Rosewood Bourbon, we are excited because that is one bourbon I like. So samples are coming up. We're going to be podcasting about it. We'll have Jason on, but we'll also be promoting Rosewood Bourbon there too. And we have one sponsorship left. So if anybody out there is interested in the last sponsorship, that's great. We love to promote everything, especially the bourbon that we drink or the whiskey that we're drinking. We absolutely love it. We promote other other brands. I would say one of our favorites with Greg Schneider, Chicken Cock, and then also Macaulay Mitten's on tonight and the Dark Arts. So I love good whiskey, good bourbon, and we are going to promote it, but not quite the way that with the ads put in and everything, and more on a professional level. But welcome, Jason, and I can't wait to get going with that. And then also tonight, NDP, non-distilling producers. So what is an NDP? Okay, so what it comes down to is it's a lot of times companies, brands can pick up that. I'm just a valid question. If it mattered, would you ever have to ask the truth? It's just marketing. So we've got a discussion between Ed Macaulay and then also Greg Schneider. There's transparency involved in NDPs. There's non-transparency involved. There's because sometimes if they get if so, an NDP is somebody who basically buys the whiskey and then is responsible for what happens to it afterwards. They basically then can age it longer. They can take it. They can buy it, take it to a different state. A lot of times they buy in Indiana, Kentucky, and then just like Rosewood, they take it down to Texas and put it 8-9 months, a year in the heat down in Texas in the same barrel. They could do it in a finishing barrel. They could take that, or they can age it longer in the same barrel. I mean, you could buy it at 6 years and age it to 10. There's it's just so many different things that you can do with the whiskey once you purchase it. And it's become very, very popular recently because there was a lot of whiskey initially, MGP. There's a lot of, and now there's places that you can also you could contract distill, but in the meantime, purchase barrels, make your brand, and then start supplementing in what you distilled through the contract. Eventually, you have your own brand. That's one way. Now, that's not a non-distilling producer. That person, okay, that's a different version because you're contract distilling. So you're not actually doing the distilling, but you work with the person, and that's what and then you basically make the brand, and it's been distilled, but it was distilled for you. Or the NDP, the pure NDP, in my opinion, they're both versions of it. You can just buy it from wherever. There's a lot of different places that sell whiskey barrels that they have for sale on the market. Aged whiskey costs more. A lot of the NDP's price range is on the plus side of $50. Usually, maybe even the plus side of 60. A lot of it's $59.99, $69.99, $79.99, right around in that range. And that's based off of, yes, they have to buy it. They basically bring it in, then they got to bottle it, and they've got to market and sell it as a brand. So when you're having someone else either distill it for you, or you're buying it already from a stock that's been aged, there's a lot of cost involved, opposed to a distillery that's distilling for themselves, aging for themselves, and putting out. There's no middleman, no secondary market. It's just one company making the whiskey. But what's happened is that when I first got into this in 2019, there was some NDPs, but they were just kind of starting. I will give you Old Carter, one of my favorite. They were on the market, and and then also I believe Kentucky Owl is also another NDP. They are building a distillery, but at the same time, they basically have contract distilled, and then they were also purchasing barrels. MGP is one of the biggest one. Yes, James Jacob says Bardstown Bourbon Company, and then Whiskey House of Kentucky. I think that's what it's. If I remember, they're going in Elizabethtown, so that is going to be another one. Green River is contract distilling, so there's a lot of different places that are contract distilling, and then also there's a lot of NDPs who are basically buying it from MGP already aged. And that's when you go in, and that's similar to what Macaulay was talking about. He goes in there, he buys barrels that he feels that he wants and whatever, brings them back to the Dark Arts Whiskey House in Lexington, ages them further, puts them in finishing barrels, and then when they're ready, he bottles them. He just came out with his line. I believe it was right at the beginning of October because we were there, and he was just starting to sell at he was tasting at the Bourbon on the Banks and then started to sell from there. So there's so many different ways an NDP can function. I mean, Buzzard's Roost is one. They basically are buying their contract they buy the distillate, and they're also contract distilling now. There are some people who contract distill who are never going to distill for themselves. Now, we know that to get a DSP, you have to have a still, and you have to produce a certain amount on that still. So the DSP is important in your state because then you're a distiller, and then rules are different with the DSP. So, but the NDPs usually, unless they get a DSP, when they get a DSP, they become distillers, but they're still. I mean, it gets tricky here. I mean, you're looking at Greg Schneider's brand, which is fantastic. Chicken Cock whiskey. We've been a part of this from the start. Some of the stuff that he has put out, it was definitely they bought barrels from different distilleries, different places. Cotton Club was pulled out of barrels from 20-year-old whiskey in Canada. And they basically put that out. And then there's all the different ones, and there's different finishes. And the double oak was some light whiskey, I believe that's what it was, or whiskey that was distilled as bourbon but put into used barrels during the barrel shortage. They purchased it, and then he took it and put it in brand new charred oak barrels to finish it and double oak it, but it's a double oak whiskey because of the fact that it was aged initially in used barrels. So there's so much that you can do as an NDP. I mean, there and the world is open to you. Just because you're buying from MGP and you're putting it there, that doesn't mean you have to stick with MGP. If you find barrels from somewhere else, for instance, we know that Ed with Old Stubborn, the whiskey that he used is 12 and 13-year-old whiskey, and it was a weeded pot still, and he basically did the blend for that and put that out. And this Old Stubborn was just out there, and the batch is sold out. I mean, it's a cool bottle. They do the packaging. He's got the brand, and those are the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that just makes everything really cool as far as what you're tasting. Now, okay, some people say, "Don't make my own whiskey. We hire another distillery to make our whiskey." Right. And that is a different, yes. There is no doubt that contract distilling, when you contract it and then the distiller, like Greg Schneider, goes there, they are distilling the brand. The brand actually has a master distiller. Actually, almost three. You got Nick Smith and you've got Steve Nally there, and you've got people overlooking the process and putting their heads together to produce really, really good whiskey. It's just that it's been contract distilled through, and you didn't actually. The DSP is about having a distillery. It's just about you've actually got a distillery. That is definitely a great point in what we're doing here. It's different. Remember, but you taught my barrel maturation. Where did he? Uh, okay, so Greg Schneider. That's there. You go. And I mean, and then Greg Schneider, he basically takes that new make and buys the barrels. And in the case of Chicken Cock right now, what's getting ready to come to market soon, he basically made the barrels. He picked out the staves. He showed the company how to, get up off the ground. Really, kind of. Greg Schneider was the head of Seagram's cooperage. He ran the cooperage at the I believe it was not. It wasn't the old Forster. Why am I having a problem with? It was, yeah, for Seagram's there, I believe for 8 years, right, Greg? So what what you are as an NDP. There's some people that are going out and buying really good whiskey. Some people are going out and buying the MGP, but it really comes down to then once you have that whiskey to understand what you're going to do to it or do not it with it. Brown Foreman, thank you. I was having a mental black. Bluegrass cooperage, yes, and he ran the cooperage. So an NDP means a lot of things. It's kind of like it's just draws a line into that it's describing that you're not actually um, distilling at the distillery for your brand, and that's just for your brand. You could do different brands at one distillery, but those are owned by the distillery. Where this is, yeah, but Bardstown Bourbon Company was created to be able to have people like Greg Schneider with his company, Grain and Barrel Spirits, and they are able to hire a master distiller and then produce some good whiskey along with purchasing whiskey as you go about you go about the process to bring the brand back from it was gone for all practical purposes, and it's a great brand. And Greg and Monty have done a great job bringing back that brand. So this is why right now the NDPs out there are so plentiful, because you've got these people that in the back in the day, it would have been almost impossible to do this. You had to start your own brand. I mean, this is what we're doing in this whiskey boom. There's a demand for it. There's a lot of people who don't have millions and millions of dollars to build a distillery, and you still need a decent amount of backing. But you can bring a brand back faster than you used to be able to, because of the fact that you purchase these barrels. You can blend them, you get them, the mash bill of what you purchased, and then you can start distilling it to match it. Or you have to have a direction, you have to have the right people, you have to have a skill, you have to have a palate, you have to have everything, plus you have to have marketers to sell it. But what the one thing that I see happening right now in the industry And there are so many good NDPs out there that it's starting to get crowded on the shelf. So let's go through. Old Carter, Buzzard's Roost, Backbone right there, Penelope, Old Louisville. We've got Dark Arts. We've got Broken Barrel. We've got Smoke Wagon. We've got Stellum. There's also Blue Note. There's also the other one is it's Blue Note and oh my gosh, and Blue Run. You've got these different places, and I think there's one more out there that I had up there. And then there was the places like OKI, which was New Riff. And then they built the distillery. And then once New Riff was finished, they basically canceled OKI, but somebody wanted it. And then OKI was brought back because they sold the brand. And that brand is Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, made up of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana whiskey to make for the blend. So it's almost overwhelming. And what I found, like in the state of Ohio, when I first started looking at the whiskey shelf back in 2018, and it was kind of, there wasn't 3/4 of a wall made up of Jim Beam, Jack Daniels. Booker's would show up. Knob Creek was there. There was the Buffalo Trace products, if they could make it, Weller Special Reserve and Weller 107 would go on the shelf there too. And then there wasn't, at the time, there was no Rabbit Hole or whatever. But anyways, there's so much more whiskey on that shelf right now. And I'm going to say, if the people for going into the state of Ohio, if you don't do your due diligence right now and you get on the shelf in the state of Ohio, that doesn't mean you're going to sell, because there's so many out there that are recognizable that you're going to lose to unless you're recognizable. So one of the newer ones that we've been going to is Amin. We went to Old Louisville. That's there. That's a really cool brand. He buys from MGP. He gets the stuff. He puts it in other barrels. He puts it in new barrels. He puts it in used barrels. He's basically moving, checking it, tasting it, bottling it, producing a decent whiskey. There's no doubt about it. He just popped up. Penelope, Danny, and Michael there, Danny Polini. He basically, no, not Danny, Danny Palesi. Danny Palesi. Thank you. He blends. I was with them when they came into, and Penelope has done a really good job in the state of Ohio. They produce a lot. And then they got bought by MGP. So now I do not believe that would be a non-distilling producer. I mean, now the place that produces it actually, oh my God, it's just so complicated. Does that make them a DSP now that they're using MGP bought them because they make the brand? So it obviously is a DSP because that's what MGP is. So they were a non-distilling producer, got bought by the distillery that was producing for them. So they no longer are. So that is a really unique way. Now, the other aspect is like Pursuit United. Yes, they do, Christy. They definitely, some NDPs also have DSPs. Now, the DSPs are purchased, from what I take it, is so that they basically purchase a place, put in a small pot still, produce the 600 gallons a year that they have to produce. It becomes a special release, but it also allows them marketing marketing advantages in a state so that they can sell their product at different venues and different places that only DSPs are only distilling producers are allowed to sell at, for instance, Kentucky Bourbon Festival. So these are like based off of rules. And yes, it's funny because they're NDPs and then they buy the small still and run it. And we have a place like that here in High Bank, in which makes Whiskey War here in Ohio. And they have they have the decent pot still at their main restaurant and a smaller pot still. But this allows them to sell their NDP product out of their restaurant. It allows them to sell it. It gets to all the different markets, but it also changes how they go about it. Is a DSB Kentucky 20,068. Yeah, and that affords you different things, but overall, I mean, Old Carter is just fantastic. One of my favorite bourbons and whiskeys. So there's no doubt about that. Some of the DSPs we've talked about it get, or no, some of the NDPs get DSPs to allow them to have different market share throughout the country, let alone just not just Kentucky, but Ohio. The rules are different everywhere. And that's something that, there's different shipping rules and whatnot. But in a control state like Ohio, you want to see some of the stuff hitting. I wish Old Carter was sold here in Ohio. That would be a dream for me. But then like Nulu, that's another one where they have their DSP, but they're also mostly. We also have a place up in Michigan, which is called Traverse City Distilling Company. They have a small pot still, but they're producing a lot of NGP. That's how they fill the shelves, and they're building a full distillery up there, but that's not ready to go to get that minimum production requirement for a DSP. Now Macaulay's talking to Christy, and I am interested in that particular one also. This has been a fantastic evening for the chat on Facebook, because having the people that we have on, Christy Atkinson's on, she knows Mark Carter from Old Carter. Macaulay's on. We're talking dark arts. We're talking chicken cock with Greg Schneider. We are talking all the different ways that whiskey can be made. And, it's like even Rosewood. And then it's really cool where the people who do this come from. Greg Schneider, he has this with the chicken cock whiskey, master distiller. He ran a cooperage. He's been he's been retired. He did he's consulted, and then he got this, and he's still consulting. It's still a consulting type thing, but at the same time, everything that he did and how he worked through the industry and where he's at. Whereas Macaulay, he helped get Wilderness Trail. One of the, it's not, I would say, it's not new anymore. It's one, a Wilderness Trail initially was hitting the shelves in 2018. I do believe this year they're coming out with it's either the 8 or 9 year. So we're talking about, they've been around for a little bit, and Macaulay's been a big part of that. But Macaulay, once Shane and Pat have sold, and he basically spun off on his own, and he's one of the younger generation distillers that are out there now. He understands distilling, but he also pretty much ran their single barrel program and was responsible for helping with profile of Wilderness Trail. And then also, now that he's doing the dark arts, he's solely responsible for the profile, the purchasing of the barrels and whatnot. And Anybody, however he got that up and running, whoever invested into Macaulay, they were smart, because I really feel that Macaulay's the full package. You've got you've got Ed, who is basically was running a large liquor store in the Covington area and became famous for his barrel picks through the liquor store, and now uh, basically has gone out and purchased whiskey and started his old brand, Old Stubborn. It's something that honestly I don't think, whatever, in 2005, it's something I don't think the market was ready for it. I don't think people had, I mean, there's a certain amount of what the craft distillers have brought to this, because there's a lot of pot still out there. There's a lot of people who like a different flavor profile. I mean, what I find really unique is that I absolutely do not in general like MGP 95.5 rye. It's horrible to me. But with that said, you get Macaulay, or you get Aaron Harris, or you get somebody with a palate that starts. Also, the other person I will give credit to is at Dayton Barrel Works, Bill Hockett. He has purchased MGP barrels for getting the um, Dayton Barrel Works brand Rubicon Creek off the ground. But I tasted through a lot of some of his barrels when we did the podcast about a year and a half ago. And honestly, there was 95.5 rye that did not taste bad to me. He had some, I've tasted that same, but if you get the right barrel, I'm a fan. So, but you have to have the right people, right? You have to have the right people uh picking. And so when you look at all the stuff, for instance, Pursuit United, which now I believe has a DSP, up until last year they did not, they were an NDP. Now they have a DSP. They have their own place in Louisville. Really cool, Ryan and Cecil, but they are Bourbon Pursuit. They have their own podcast, two podcasters who love bourbon and now have their own brand. That's another aspect of what's going on. Brothers of the Leaf. I mean, there's so much. Blind, I will sign over my company. Macaulay says, if you could tell my Amberana was a 95.5 blind, I will sign over my company. And yes, and that's the greatest thing about whiskey. You need the people to be able to pick out the barrels. If you're doing an NDP, you got to have the flavor palette there. Somebody who understands what good whiskey is, and somebody who understands what the majority of people think is great whiskey. So you can't please everybody. But what I've been finding is that you've got to have the right people, the right marketing, and to for these to compete in the NDP market. So right now, I really feel from what I see on the shelves in Ohio, right? Let's just say in the state of Ohio, I can walk in and get Smoke Wagon. Aaron does a great job there. But here in Ohio, I try and promote it as much as I can. But pretty much the whole line is there on the shelf any day I want to walk in, and it's $80. Pretty much. There's some cheaper, but $79.99 for the one. 59, I think that, but they got the uncut, unfiltered. They've got the regular Smoke Wagon. They usually have a Smoke Wagon that's associated with either a holiday like the 4th of July or St. Patrick. They've got different ones. And then they got the young Smoke Wagon, the young bat. So, anyways, they've got them all there. Same thing with Penelope. The Architect's on the shelf. The Toasted Oak is on the shelf. Those are on the shelf, readily available for you to walk in anytime. Now, Don't tell Greg Schneider's like Amberana finish is absolutely amazing. Do not tell that to CT because CT has not been a fan of Amberana, and it's something that you can't put off. Now, Smoke Wagon Ryes are decent, and that so the thing about Smoke Wagon is he's pulling all the MGP that he buys, and he's pulling it out to Las Vegas in the desert and finishing them there. I mean, it's insane the different places. Just the same thing when with Rosewood, he's taking it and finishing it in Texas, and it changes it. One driving the barrels in a semi out 900 miles or 1,000 miles from MGP, it's going to change the whiskey. It's kind of like putting it on a river. You put it on a semi for 2 days, it gets there. Let's just say it gets there, and then you age it more. It changes it. It changes it. I don't make my 40 varieties of whiskey expecting everyone to love it all. Yes, I agree, Macaulay. That is exactly the right attitude. You hope that of those 40 varieties, everybody likes one version or the other. I mean, that's kind of what what you think. You know, that right there is a really cool statement. I Greg Schneider understands it. I understand it as a podcaster. I do a podcast. I definitely don't expect everybody to love my podcast. That's for sure. And we really enjoy doing the podcast. I want to do this for people who like how I go about doing it and can put up with some mistakes. It's live, it's uncut. I mean, we're raw, and it's the same thing. It's like with whiskey and bourbon. My palate is different than a lot of people's. I understand Macaulay's palate. It's mine isn't as refined, but there's most of the stuff that I've tasted with Macaulay that he's chosen or said to do this or that is just right in line to what I love. So you find the people that are producing what you love. If you like, that's how this works. But it also comes down to with the NDPs is I think when I look at the shelves these days, the liquor stores are starting to run out of places for the whiskey. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I really feel where I used to not be able to get when Penelope first came out, it was just right off the shelf. You didn't get it. Now it's there. Now that could be because MGP is they're producing more and it's something that's there all the time and it's good. So they want it there all the time. So that makes really kind of a cool dynamic. But the same thing with Smoke Wagon here in Ohio, Barrel Craft. Those bourbons don't have quite the recognition, or the marketing wasn't quite done so that people know what it is. Now, people who love bourbon know I don't know too many people in my bourbon groups that don't know what Smoke Wagon is, but that doesn't mean when you're talking about every liquor store in Ohio, uh, that they're going to sell off the bottles because the people that actually love this, it also, when it hits that shelf, you have to have people who are interested in getting into it. And then you have to market so they recognize what they're buying because that's very important. There's no doubt about recognizing. And when you're, and people who get into the NDPs are specific people. They like everything. They kind of already did the Buffalo Trace and they like Buffalo Trace, but they've acquired it. And so now they want to try other different things. And that really has what is going on with this. I always felt, Greg, that since you've been in the state of Ohio, you have kept chicken cock rye and bourbon stocked on the shelves, reasonable price. It's not up that it's I think it's 59.99, 56.99, 54.99. So it's been really good that you guys have that's the beauty of tasting, no wrong or right. Yeah, he was talking about palates, but there is no wrong or right. But I mean, I could tell you one thing. I could tell a person who's burned their palate off and they love those barrel proofs, but they think 80 proof, bourbon is for girls, is what they say, or whatever, and they make fun of you for liking it, but it really comes down to what you can taste. And it really says they're tasting all those flavors in the barrel proof, but they can't taste the flavors. It tastes watered down and whatever. But if you have a very delicate palate, you sure as heck can taste those flavors in that 80, 84, 86 proof, 90. I mean, I had someone complain about Traveler whiskey, which is just released from Buffalo Trace, and it's a 90 proof. And somehow they said, "Oh, I wish it wasn't 90 proof. I wish it was higher." And I'm just like, "You're kidding me." It's just, we all have to sometimes take a step back and think about our livers, because you can't always do that, that way. So it's been, hey, Super Nash is there. He's late to the party, but that's all right. Ann Dimmick, welcome. Okay, what are we talking about? Macaulay, what? That shit sucks. What did I miss? Price is important. I try my best to have a reasonable. Oh, you're talking about the. I get it. You talked about the Traveler. I didn't mind it, honestly. I put it up, but it's a whiskey for Chris Stapleton fans. I mean, I don't know what to say. They're gonna love it. That's kind of what they made it for. I know you got to make, if you're not a fan of rye and you're a distiller, you better make some good rye, because that's the way it goes. You're distilling. So, and the same thing. I really think I liked your rye, Macaulay. What you put out, that was fantastic. Everything that you put out so far, I like. So it's good to see Ann. But if just a side note, this Thursday, Ann is going to be on the podcast talking about OHLQ's release of Irish single barrels. They went over to Ireland, picked, I want to say, she said last time it was 22 different single barrels being released throughout the state. Coming up this weekend, it's going to kick it off. So we are excited about that. As far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anything like it. I feel like OHLQ was similar to what Nookie Thompson did in Boardwalk Empire when he was he went over to Ireland because he couldn't get enough of the whiskey, so he went right directly to Ireland and took a trip there, and it was really kind of cool. I felt like that's what Ohio did, bringing back Irish whiskey into the state. The marketing is fantastic. It is perfect time. We are going to be coming up on St. Patrick's Day. By then, those barrels will have been released. We've got Bua, the brand of Pat Burns and Martin Kennedy, both here in the state of Ohio and Columbus. We will be announcing that, like I said, talking about their Bua brand on, I believe, Sunday. This coming up Sunday, we are going to be doing a morning podcast live on Facebook and YouTube, straight from Burns Pub in Columbus area. So Canadian whiskey in it. As I've been told, I tried it. Not my jam. I'm a huge Chris Stapleton fan, though. That's what Greg Schneider was talking about. I don't know if it has Canadian whiskey. I don't know what's in it. They keep it quiet, but everybody. But that's another thing. Macaulay's talking about transparency when it comes to Buffalo Trace. They are not transparent, but look what it does. It creates a huge argument of amongst whiskey drinkers about what's in it, and then their main selling point of who their market actually is not us. It is the Chris Stapleton fans who want to drink whiskey, and they are those one-dimensional, love to drink it, get drunk, kind of shoot down the shots whiskey drinkers. And there's enough flavor in there for some of us to like. So I didn't have any problem with it. So that's how it goes. But when you're talking about, we'll get back to the NDPs. I mean, it's complicated, and it's funny because you can start off as an NDP, and then you can change what you're doing as you go. You could start as Pursuit United. Now they are contract distilling, so they don't have their stuff coming, but they are putting down for the future so that they can eventually use their contract distilled whiskey and bourbon to further the brand. Now, with that, they still are an NDP as a contract distiller, even though they're using a distillery to distill for them. So then, if you want to take it one step further, you basically put a small still in and you produce the 600 gallons that you're supposed to, depending on what state, so that you can get a DSP in the state being a distiller, which then affords you different marketing, uh, advantages over a normal NDP, that you're allowed to sell. Let's just say if you have a restaurant, you can sell the bottles out of the restaurant. Whereas if you don't have that DSP, you can't when you're an NDP. So there's a lot of different things and a lot of different involvements. And then there are some people who start out NDPs and eventually build their own distilleries and become their own brand and distill their own brand. So those are the lot of different ways that NDPs exist. It's an exciting market. It's over. I believe what's happening is we're getting near the part where anybody can just produce a brand, and it's not going to be able to anymore be average. If it's average, whether you're a craft distiller or an NDP, the cream is going to start rising to the top. So as far as really good whiskey producers, the bubble's not bursting, but we're getting to the point where we're producing so much for the future, and I don't know how it's going to sustain, the market's going to sustain all that whiskey that's being laid down. Now, I could be wrong, but it looks like as of right now that although like all the Buffalo Trace products people chase and all these people are getting into this, and you're talking about the collecting aspect, that still is going strong. Being bought up by bigger companies, Penelope being bought up by NGP. I don't know. Ross asks, does he think that the bigger companies are going to stop buying the NDPs? And I think, honestly, when you look at it, a big company still might take up an NDP if they're doing it properly, because my opinion is they did the work to get there. There's a brand already, there's marketing, people are already buying it. And those people, when you're doing an NDP, there's a lot of cash flow and important issues that you're taking care of that make it difficult. And they're buying marketing intellectual. He goes, absolutely. Macaulay doesn't think so. She thinks that they are buying marketing and intellectual property. Yeah, I honestly think that if you're doing it right and you put out a brand and it's going well, MGP buying Penelope was kind of a very unique thing, because they're keeping the people that were running. A lot of times they'll just keep them on for the hell of it. But from what I've talking to Danny and Michael, they're keeping them on doing what they're doing because they understand they're taking their product, the MGP distillate, and have very good palates and have mixing and blending capabilities that it's just the people take that for granted, to be able to blend and taste and understand what you're tasting and understand your market. it's not an endless supply of those type people. Not just anybody can do it. I mean, even when you talk about distillers at a large distillation place, yes, there's a lot of what would you say? Repetition and consistency that keeps going. But to keep the brand on task, and Brad Bonds is the one that you could taste Jim Beam from 1980, 1970, 1960, and you taste those and they taste different. So keeping the flavor consistent these days, which is something that Jim Beam would strive for or whatever at a big distillery, is not an easy thing to do, in my opinion. I mean, every single year, the strain of corn might be the same, but the growing season wasn't. And how much corn you get, how much wheat, everything changes. Just like with the barrel, when you chop down trees from one part of the forest and then the other part, the trees where they grow make a difference in what the flavor of the barrel is. So, I mean, there's so many different variables when you're making whiskey, and to keep it consistent is a skill. And the same thing, one of the great things about NDPs and why I believe why they exploded in in this bourbon boom is because of their ability from batch to batch to still be good, but they're different and they're special, and there's really good batches and there's just okay batches. I mean, you look at Booker's consistently being put out. They name it different, but it has a flavor profile, but there are some really good batches and there are some okay batches. And that's just in my opinion, I think if you're putting out a brand and you're doing really well, that's intriguing to a larger distillery to bring that on and get that marketplace. You know, MGP, that market of Penelope with those finishing things, that just made sense for them to get. Now they've bought Luxco and they have Kentucky bourbon and big Kentucky bourbon, and they've got Yellowstone. And I mean, it's crazy what that company is doing. But when you're talking about, Penelope is no longer an NDP. So, and I guess some people never want to be anything but an NDP, but then they might want to still do their function, but pull off that DSP so that they can have some marketing advantages over the other NDPs. I mean, that's it in a nutshell right there, wouldn't you say? Is there anything else somebody out there wants to ask as far as what we could talk about? There is an analog in brewing industry. If bigger companies see the IP and the brand as a threat, yeah, but I don't. What, beer is different, I think, Walker, than whiskey, because I think I don't. Nobody. There's so many breweries and beers compete against each other, but in this bourbon boom and these whiskey companies, they just make it and it sells. Jim, it doesn't sit on the shelf for any long periods of times. There's not up now. Recently with the NDPs, they're kind of on the shelf. I don't see them sitting, but they're on the shelf. It's like they'll make it and then they'll be off for a week and then come back, or you'll see the even with chicken cock, you'll see the stock go down, and then right as it's like one or two left of the bourbons, then all of a sudden I come back the next week and they've got it stocked again. So I mean, the stuff is moving, but they're not competing really yet. But I see competition happening soon. I mean, look at what happened with Jack Daniels. I mean, they're the number one distribution whiskey, bourbon, or American whiskey in the world, and they were a lot further ahead 3 years ago than they are now, and that's something that everybody is seeing. The various mash bills, same old present distillery, not known as Four Roses now known as Four Roses. Seagram's always had multiple mash bills, but all the distilleries had the recipes and made them all. I guess it really comes down to, for brands, it's not so much where it's made. I mean, when you go to when you come out of the old Stitzel Weller, right across the street is the Brown Forman distillery. And then they have their small distilleries downtown. But that's, I don't know. I mean, you would like to think that Jack Daniels is only made in Tennessee, but I don't know. I mean, honestly. Who was that? Can't keep up with the bottling for my markets. Yeah, it's like good. Yeah, you should call him Macaulay. Greg's a great guy, knowledgeable, has done a lot. Oh, Mr. So let's just talk real quick. El Presidente, Randy Prossi, is here with us. Randy Prossi is the president of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Thanks for watching tonight. But we have an announcement. I believe they announced this week the Kentucky Bourbon Festival tickets will go on sale April 17th. So we are looking for that. Everybody, we will be there. Hey, we're going to be there. There's no doubt about it. And if you want to come party with us at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, you have to get online on April 17th and get your tickets, because I really believe this year, now that the ball's rolling and what everybody saw last year and what's going to happen this year. Last year, the VIPs were just gone. I mean, I don't know. There's 4 different selections, but you got to get on, and you should go and sign up and become the Kentucky Bourbon Festival partner, so that you get the email about the pre-sale. You want to do that. So you definitely want to get online and get the VIP. The VIPs are just fantastic. It's the VIP experience at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival is unlike any other experience there is. I was talking with Randy in November. They are going to be upping the podcasting ability at the festival, the media tent. They've got, I mean, what's going to be there and the improvements and how many distilleries. I mean, I don't know what to say, but 3 days, you pick up those tickets and you have 52, 51, 52, 53 distilleries, plus their special pours, plus VIP drink mixes. Everything's there. It's crazy. It really is. You want to get there and come down and see the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. So everybody out there, make sure that you get your tickets early this year, because I don't think it's going to. Last year sold pretty good, and it was sold out, I believe, in early August or mid-August. But I think this year it could sell out almost right away. Wait until this year. Larger floor with carpet, glass walls, and a full-length porch. I mean, it's going to be wild. Can't wait for that to happen. I'm hoping Macaulay just talks to you, Randy, and gets in there too. But anyways, with that all said, it's just like I'm super, super, super excited for the Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year. And then also remember, there's going to be, I think, above 20 barrel picks this year. We are excited about that. I'm hoping to get on a couple of them. I'm hoping that Chicken Cock does a barrel pick, so if I could get on that, I'm trying to get on whatever Kentucky Bourbon Festival barrel pick. Me and CT and Super Nash are available. Randy knows that, and also Stacy knows that also, and we are psyched for this year. There's no doubt about it. So he's close to 30 barrel picks now, and it just could. I mean, if you're a distillery and you got your DSP, you want to have a barrel pick there, because this is where you get 6,500 of the most prestigious bourbon drinkers in the world, and it's so much fun. It's just so much fun. Yeah, and then Tyler Rothenberg for Chicken Cock Whiskey. Welcome back, Tyler. And then also in March, I believe March 14th, we're going to have Greg Schneider on the podcast. And then Randy, you got to contact me about coming on the podcast. What time, when you want to come on. You could probably contact me in New Orleans when we're down at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival. We could talk about, because you're talking about then when you come back, we probably should do it about 2 weeks away from the release. So early April would be great to have you on the podcast. And then also, Macaulay, I'm just working out details and everything. Would love to have you on a Zoom podcast also. So greatly appreciate everybody. The Thursday Andemic's going to be on, talking about the Irish whiskey in Ohio, which is going to be amazing. Once again, this has been, I believe Greg Schneider is going to be down in New Orleans too. My goal is to stay sober as much as I possibly can, so that I could talk to everybody who's down there that I know. When we're down there and we're working, that's one of the things when we're doing a festival. The only thing that I miss from time to time is that I have guests on the podcast. We podcast live from festivals. We do all the interviews, but it's like when you're dealing with 50 some distilleries like you do at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, you miss people. Now, one of the cool things is that we bring Supernash will be in New Orleans, and so will Whiskey, myself, and Roxy. So we'll all be down there, and we'll cover it the best we can for everybody. So this should be a blast. And the same thing with Kentucky Bourbon Festival. I mean, I think sometimes I only see Randy like 3-4 times during that period, and I really don't see him till after, because it's a busy time for everybody. So I'm looking forward to this year immensely. All right, everybody. With that said, someone saying New Orleans is the best in the country. Can't beat the snacks and water. Yeah, I'll put it up, but I just the Kentucky Bourbon Festival just has a certain aspect so far of as it goes, but I'm interested. I really want to get down there and do the New Orleans also, because when you're talking about Bourbon Street as the venue after, I mean, if anybody's been down there, or if you haven't, you got to get down there, because partying on Bourbon Street. I'm going to be headed over to the old Absinthe bar, so that definitely will be where I'm headed afterwards. And then Martin Duffy's going to be there too, and so supposedly this is going to be a wild party. So with that said, I hope everybody listening that they understand what an NDP is now, all the different finesses that happen with it, and how it can start a brand, it can maintain a brand, and then also it can evolve the brand. I mean, it's just a way to that. I think in this time period, it's being used the best it possibly can be used when it comes to the consumer and all of our choices. Oh, that'll be great to see you there. Supernash, it's going to be great. With that said, all right, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Thanks, everybody. Shout out to Macaulay, Mr. Schneider, Randy Pressey, our president, Supernash, and Ross Cornelis, master distiller at Barton's. I mean, Andemic. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate you. It's been a super podcast, and can't wait to see you all because we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for all your Scotchy Bourbon Boys merchandise. And then also, we're on all the major podcast formats, iHeart, Apple, Spotify. Just check us out there. Please go there and leave good feedback for us. Leave comments. That helps us. And as far as our exposure, thank you to Rosewood Bourbon and Jason Giles for coming on as our new sponsor. Thank you to the Spirit of French Lick and then also Alan Bishop. Have fun in Pennsylvania. And we are on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X. Check us out there. Remember, good bourbon equals good friends and good times. Drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, and live your life dangerously. Good night, everybody. Little Steve-O will take us out.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
Oh, stop recording. Oh, stop. I hit pause. There we go. Let me quick save this. We're off. I'll hit the audio magic. I don't know why I need audio magic tonight. No cross talking because it was just me here. But great podcast for everybody there on Facebook and YouTube. We really appreciate you. I am going to publish for uploading NDP. I'm just saving this podcast. Really cool. NDP 2 Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Save. All right. So it's building. I'm off there. That's it for that part of the podcast. Oh, why are you dropping all the way down and knocking stuff over? That's usually all right. So that's gone. So I've got this microphone. Oh, I probably got distanced. Let's put that on there because that would be YouTube. So I'm gonna check YouTube real quick. I didn't do that. Let's see. YouTube live. All right. Wink said drink it. Wink said drink what's in your cup. Oh, Tater Don. Hey, Tater Don. I hope you're there. Lots of people. And then hello from Texas. Hey, Tyler. Good to see you. That's cool. I have no idea, but it's good to see everybody. Thank you for watching on YouTube tonight. It seems like every week we get a little bit more the more we go about doing this. It's always Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So check us out. I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna stop watching because there's not that many, but we'll go back to Facebook. If anybody has any questions that just joined us about, hey Terry Dant, cheers. Ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna get off here and get this all uploaded once this episode. I got a little bit of time. Super Nash, you still there? Question is, are you still there, Super Nash? I don't know. I have no idea. It's hard to tell who's here, who's not, but it seemed like the comments were going and flowing tonight, at least. That was a star-studded comment section on Facebook. Is kind of fun. We just talked about NDPs. So it gets into some detail. Macaulay, thank you so much for everything that you did because that was fantastic. And early on in the comments, Macaulay just had a lot of information that he put there. And we appreciate that. Super Nash, okay. I'm getting ready. It's almost built. Oh, it's funny because what did everybody think of the new set? I mean, honestly, you got it should be quite obvious how much bigger and more expansive this is. And as you can see, Nash, I bet he's here. Cheers, Super Nash. All I could tell you is this is the hardest one not to grab. We this, as Super Nash knows, this was my Christmas present. This is batch 9 Old Carter, and I don't even want to have any right now because it's one of my favorite. Old Carter has always been good, but that batch 9 is so good. I almost want to put it back and pull out batch, I think 14. I want to say, I can't tell. Anyways, so I got to talk to Roxy Walker when I go up. I'll talk to her and I'll message you where we're staying. I don't know what she booked. I have to see. That should be a fun barrel pick. I've got you, Jamie, and Spanky, myself coming down. Bishop will be on the pick. So we've got some special stuff to pick from there. So this should be a lot of fun. I wish Nash was coming, but I know with New Orleans, it makes it tough to come up to Indiana. I know that. Super Nash. CT is going to be in Florida, and I don't know where Whiskey's going to be, but he's invited. But lately, he's been busy as F. He was in South Carolina this past. I think he should be. She's coming home tonight, so I'll see if I can get him to go March 8th. That would be cool. Have him come down because that he's open for. We are excited for this barrel pick. This should be pretty good. So, and then the Elijah Craig pick. I'm hoping tomorrow night I'm going down to pick it up. That's my. I'm praying. Thursday night I can't pick it up, but I'm hoping I can get it tomorrow night. I might know a gal related to Old Carter. Yeah, Christy was on tonight. She told us about that. Yeah, she's watching too. So there you go. Christy does know a little bit about Old Carter, that's for sure. I'm just wondering, Christy, if Mark is working on that Old Carter embroider patch for my jacket. Just kidding. Anyways, but that is a dream. That would be a dream come true because uh, it would be like, I mean, honestly, is that the coolest bottle? That is the coolest bottle. Right now, that's right in front of my face. I've got all this stuff in front of my face. I'm de- it's so good. I don't even want to drink it. Oh, uh, wait. Wait, what day is that again? Seriously, Nash? You're asking? Walker's telling you? Yeah, we're here. Christy. Yes, Christy is awesome. She should come to the March 8th pick at French Lick. That would be wild. But you're invited, Christy, if you want to come. Oh, uh, I just had the little bit of dark arts. I think Ed. I'm gonna have some of Ed's weeded stubborn. This is such a good bottle, and I've shared it. I'm basically what would you say? I am rationing this at this point. I shared it with so many people that now this is mine. she has another event later that day, and we're invited. What is the event? That'd be a long drive. Is it in Louisville? Because we could drive to Louisville and then come back to French Lick, I guess, to the hotel. I don't know. You got to tell me about that, Walker. That's drinking fiery again. Lots of wheat. James. Oh, anyways. I would say, I will answer that if James is still are you still watching, James, or are you just Facebook messengering me? Old Stubborn is so good. I'm glad I got a backup bottle. When did you get a backup bottle? Nash? Jesus God. Oh. It would be cool if Jamie is on. And if you're on, Jamie, I can explain. Because right now we've got Barrelhead. Oh, what's that? Oh, my phone just died. So I'm going to take it off of. That's okay. I'm going to take us off of YouTube and then go on that. All right, let's finish YouTube quickly. Wow. 3 likes, 1 watching. All right, there we go. Good night, everybody on YouTube.